Yes.
All right. So this is, it's Tuesday, May 19th. This is the Village Board regular meeting. It's 5 p.m. So I would ask for a roll call, please.
Candy. Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yep, now we can.
Okay.
Okay. Carpenter,
Here.
Donovan,
Here.
Glish.
Randy,
Is Randy there?
he's got a. There you go.
No, I'm not. I'm not muted.
There we go.
Horton,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
and Peterson.
Here.
All right. Thank you very much.
What about, wait, excuse me, this is Jerry Bollig. I wasn't included in the roll call.
Well, you were at the beginning and we saw you, but you can hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
All right.
You're here, Jerry. You're here.
Am I here or there?
All right. So we will move on to item 3. This is this is community input. This is the part of the agenda that allows members of the public to provide information to the village board. Is there anyone on the Zoom call today that has something to bring to our attention that is not currently on the agenda? If so, you can just raise your hand. I'll call on you. Doesn't look like perhaps anyone. Going once, going twice. All right. Moving on to item 4, Police Chief Pegenkoff. So we have the first item is a swearing in of our new Police Chief, Jenny Pegenkoff. And Jenny, oh, there you are. There you are. Do you have a copy of the oath in front of you?
I do.
Because I do too, because Mike printed me out one. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
All right. So I wish that we could do this in person. Obviously, at some other point in time, we'll have some photos. Perhaps your family can come to a meeting, some officers, but we have to make it official. So I guess, do you want to raise your right hand? All right. And then repeat after me. I, Jennifer H. Pegenkoff,
I, Jennifer H. Pegenkoff,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will support and comply with the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Wisconsin,
the charter, laws, and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the charter, laws, and ordinances of the Village of Oregon,
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department,
the rules and regulations of the Village of Oregon Police Department,
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics,
and the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as Chief of Police of the Oregon Police Department.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as Chief of Police of the Oregon Police.
All right. And so Chief Pegenkoff assumed her duties as of May 15th, 2020. So is it appropriate to applaud? Can we applaud?
Absolutely.
I'm applauding.
Yay! Yay!
Thank you.
Yes. So so those of you not in the know, the Police Commission chose former lieutenant, then acting chief, and now official chief, Jenny Pegenkoff, as our next chief of police for the Village of Oregon. So congratulations again, Chief Pegenkoff. Thank you, Mike, for putting all the letters of support for Chief Pegenkoff in the packet. If you haven't had a chance to read those, you should. I could only begin to hope that if I ever was up for a position, that I would have letters of support from the Department of Justice, from the municipal judge, from the district attorney's office, from the school superintendent, several of my officers and command staff. I thought that was particularly impressive. That puts them in an interesting position if you don't get chosen. So I think that they were putting themselves on the line for you. And I thought that was particularly impressive. And then many, many residents. So I thought it was a nice cross section of support. And I know that the Police Commission took quite a bit of time at their meeting to go through all that documentation. And so congratulations again. And then, so at this point, I would open it up to any board members that have anything that they might want to say at this point. Just raise your hand if you want to say anything. Yes, Amanda.
Well, first off, congratulations, Chief Pagenkoff. I'm so happy that you're our new chief. I wanted to thank all the people who said something on your behalf. I did a little accounting of all of the things in the packets, and it was 44 pages of recommendation by 34 different people, and 7 of them were dated before our April 20th meeting, and 27 came in after the April 20th meeting. So I'm so pleased that people found out, heard what we discussed and weighed in, and I'm thrilled that you're our next chief, and thank you to everybody who stepped up and weighed in.
Thanks, Amanda. Oh, Jenna, yes.
I just wanted to, oh, am I still on? No, I'm not there. Okay, second, what Amanda said, it was really great to read all of those letters of support. They reinforced my impression of you, Chief Pagenkoff, and so it just makes me even more excited that you're a new chief. So congratulations and yay.
All right. Oh, yes, Corey, go ahead.
I just would also like to echo all of those sentiments. I'm very proud to call you our police chief, and I'm very pleased that we saw the public kind of get in an uproar in your support, which I fully stand behind you, and I know our community does too. So congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you. Jerry, did I see your hand or no?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
I want to join everyone else in just congratulating Chief Pagenkoff. This is Jen is a 15-year veteran of the force, so we're getting someone that's already trained, and she's known throughout the state, and she's well liked in the community, as you can see by those letters of support. So, as everyone else has said, I think we're very fortunate to have the new chief be right in our midst and to be fully trained at this time. So welcome, Jenny. I look forward to working with you, as does the rest of the board, I'm sure.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right, so then we will move on to item C. This is possible board action regarding adjusting Chief Pagenkoff's annual salary. This would be a motion to increase Chief Pagenkoff's annual salary from $101,543, which was the acting chief salary, to $109,513 effective May 15th, 2020. Note that our former police chief's annual salary was that same amount, the $109,513. Would anyone like to make a motion or start a discussion?
Bollig will move that.
All right, I have a
second.
I have a motion by Bollig and a second by Jacobson to do that recommended motion. Is there any discussion? Yes, David Donovan.
Thank you. Several questions. What was the starting salary of our previous chief?
He was hired in 2015, so that's probably the lower mid 90s, David.
Okay, and has the job description changed since then?
No, but we did actually Candy did this a couple years ago, in-depth salary survey, and we tried to bring up all the positions, not in the police union, but other positions to the mid-range, and that's what we did with Chief Yul's position.
That was going to be my next question. Yep. So this 101 that we're proposing.
We're proposing
109.
Yeah.
Is that the mid-range of the existing market study, if you will?
That got Brian into the mid-range of his comparisons with other chiefs in the area.
In the area, okay.
Yep.
The reason I'm asking these questions is I want to give us as much flexibility as possible on incentives and other remuneration for our new police chief. So if this limits us in some way of doing that, I would like to know that going in. It's not that I'm opposed to the salary. It's just I want to make sure that if she does outstanding work, that we have the flexibility to reward that.
I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't hear some of that. What's your concern? I'm sorry, I didn't hear all that.
The only concern is that we have the flexibility to reward outstanding work, and if we're already at the mid-range as a starting salary, I have concerns that we have any flexibility going forward if she warrants that some type of exceptional remuneration for her actions and her work.
Yeah, there's room in the salary schedule for that. Yep.
Further discussion. Again, if you want to talk, just raise your hand and I'll do my best to call on you. All right, so I don't think we have any more discussion, so I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, item 5, status of Safer at Home order. This is a discussion and possible board direction regarding Dane County's Safer at Home order and discussing the following items if the order continues or if it expires on May 26th at 8 a.m. Mike, with the recent forward Dane, do we still need to talk about this?
So Elise, could you bring up the new insert that the Safer, that one right there. Actually, let's see here. Candy, do you know where you put it in the packet?
It's right after 5A.
Okay. There it is. Yep. So this is new this afternoon. As of yesterday, Public Health Madison and Dane County came out with their plan it's called Forward Dane, and this is now the direction the county is providing to go through a series of phases to get us back to a normal working situation. And as I know you haven't had a chance to read this, but as you go through this, at least can you just go down a little bit? Thank you. There's emergency order number 2, which is now the updated order from the one that they quickly implemented once the Supreme Court ruled. And in this order, it removes all restrictions on travel. It opens up tennis courts. That's what impacts us with some restrictions, and then it allows businesses to perform some basic operations. And it looks like they're trying to get where they will allow businesses to be open next Tuesday at 25%. That was what the I was just reading this online today. That's what the Dane County Health Department, I'm sorry, the Director of Public Health in Dane County, they're looking at trying to open up next Tuesday. That's their goal, if they meet the metrics. And there's a whole series of discussions about metrics that are attached that they're going to try to meet for phase 1, for phase 2, for phase 3. And I think phase 4 of this whole plan is when there's a vaccination out there. And so if you keep scrolling down, at least for me, please. So then what the impact on us is that we will open up the tennis and pickleball courts, and we're going to put up some signage. I know Jeff hasn't seen this yet, but we're going to ask Jeff to do some signs. And most likely what we're going to do is, because you're supposed to have play on every other court, we're probably just going to block off the middle court and have them on bold. And we'll post these signs. I should say that one of the key elements of this is that there's no fining involved by the police department. Not that we actually did it, but let me just find the wording. I'm sorry. It removes criminal penalty for violating the order. So the police department will continue to, if they see things that are not in compliance with the order, they will go out and educate people. That's the goal here. Park shelters, playing fields, and baseball and volleyball courts. we're getting inquiries as you saw in the email about playing fields. Right now, playing fields may be used, but individuals may not engage in team or contact sports with anyone that is not a member of their family. Same thing for basketball and volleyball courts. So we'll have to figure out how to handle that.
Really close to what we were thinking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and then if you scroll down a little bit more, at least skate parks are still closed, playgrounds are still closed. We're going to keep our restrooms closed. We're not going to have the bubblers, as Jeff would call them, open.
Drinking fountains.
And then at this point, we're still keeping the village buildings closed. And going forward, I think what this is saying that as far as us going forward and opening up these areas will be dependent on how they are used and that the general public can practice safe social distancing. So I think the next time we get together on June 1st, hopefully they're in phase 1, and then they're going to, whenever they open a phase, they're going to at least go 14 days before I think they do the next phase. And it may go longer if they're not hitting those metrics. If you keep going down attached to this, it's detailed. It's detailed. As Matt said, they did a really nice job with this. You can see they're doing some testing, and so at this point, I was going to ask for board direction, but I'm comfortable with this order and this plan is putting forth, unless the board wants to weigh in and tell me that we want to do something differently. I'm pretty comfortable with what's laid out in this plan.
Amanda, I saw your hand up. And then David.
Thanks. I have a question. Under the tennis and pickleball guidelines, the new guidelines, it says don't touch or share game balls or equipment. And I'm not sure how you can play tennis or pickleball without touching the same ball at some point. Can someone enlighten me?
Trying to read where you said. Do not share, touch or share equipment or game balls. I think that's between games. And I don't, obviously if you're doing a match, you're playing against your spouse or someone, your guys going to be using the same ball. Again, they're trying to, if you look at, I gave Jeff some examples from the Madison Parks division about playgrounds. They're trying to prevent people from touching things that other people have touched. I mean, that's
rackets, bats,
right?
And
yep.
And
fences and things like that. Yep.
Fences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yep.
No, I understand your point, but they're trying to get, like, if you're playing and you two people are playing, another couple wants to play, you don't use the same balls. That's what they're trying to say. Yeah.
David, I think you were next, then Jenna.
Yeah, just a quick question on, I haven't had a chance to read all this, but is there anything in here or anywhere else that talks about or provides guidance on what happens if a situation escalates and education becomes more of a confrontation rather than someone accepting advice or understanding the situation?
Jenny, you want to weigh in on that from the police department perspective?
Yes. So how I read the forward Dane plan as it sits under the Dane County's new health order, the last bulletin says it will remove criminal penalty for violating the order. If education isn't going to work, if it's a public property, then we would convey those concerns to Mike, and we could talk about whether or not that facility needs to remain open. If it's private property, it gets a little bit more challenging. If the person becomes combative with us or disruptive to the community, we can address that in a different manner through disorderly conduct or something like that. But so far, and I think we've been through the thick of the strictest of this, and everybody's been pretty understanding, and I think everybody's just trying to learn as they go as well.
I think that's why on the tennis courts, we're physically going to block off the middle court, so it doesn't make the police department have to go out there and tell people they can't use it. We're going to try to least make it a little bit easier for the department, and as much as we can.
All right, Jenna, and then Corey.
I think my questions were answered, so you can skip me. Thanks.
Okay, go Corey.
So one suggestion I saw in Monona on their tennis courts, they actually lowered the nets. You know, we could potentially consider removing the nets, you know, just as a way for kind of keeping that center court unutilized. I guess I would like to see, in addition to the Dane County notices that are put up, to include that, you know, if we're having issues with people complying with these recommendations, that we will reconsider closing the public facilities. And then one other thing I wanted to discuss amongst the group is, you know, one of the recommendations is avoiding common touch points such as gates. So I don't know if we should chain the gate open so no one needs to touch the gates, and or should we provide a sanitizing station for users at the park?
The gate's something that I was going to talk to Jeff about, but I think that I think, you know,
We don't.
I think people should bring their own hand sanitizer. We're having a hard time finding enough for ourselves.
Yeah, I was going to say that it's difficult to be able to get the hand sanitizer, and if it were out there, I would honestly believe it would walk away very, very quickly.
What do you think about chaining the gates open?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. We could just take the net off in the middle.
Yep, and I like the net idea. I mean, I don't think it's.
I mean, I will tell you, I mean, the people were playing tennis, and then we observed that they were not following social distancing, that's what forced us to close it down. So that's a good point, Corey. Yep.
And we'll add that to any signs we put on there.
Yep. Thank you.
Mike, did you need any action from us on this?
I'm comfortable if the board's comfortable with the plan. And I should tell you, I spent most of the day writing this and something else. So I took this information from a number of sources, but mainly from the forward-dating plan. And so the board can obviously take some time and look at it. And I'm hoping actually that, like I said, the next time we meet on June 1st, that we're already in phase 1. So that'd be good for the community and for the county, obviously. So no, I'm fine, Jeannie. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I do have a couple things I like to mention here. Is that we had one business owner call, wondering if we're going to actually. I think she was sort of implying, are we going to exceed the county's order? And so I've told the staff out there if people call, you know, we are following the public health department's rules and Dane County's orders. So just to get the word out, if we're going to follow the order, we're not going to do anything beyond what's in the order. I think that she was concerned about that. And then the second thing, Rachel wanted to talk to the board about starting up the adult day program again, right, on June 1st. Rachel?
Yes. Our adult day program has always been considered an essential service, so it didn't need to close down. We suspended it in mid-March when many of the participants became concerned and decided they didn't really want to be attending. So we're looking at reopening at the beginning of June with no more than 5 to 6 participants at a time. We've measured out our rooms so we know we can maintain a safe social distance for everybody. We've strategized about how to keep them from touching any of the same things as we do activities. We're creating face shields for people to wear. So we've talked to family members now, and a lot of caregivers and participants in our adult day program really need this program to come back online. It's a great respite opportunity for caregivers to get a little time to themselves. And we think we can do this in a way that is as responsible and as low risk to the participants and the staff as possible. So I'm open for any questions you might have about how we intend to handle things going forward.
Yes, Corey.
I guess not only for that, but for, parks and all of the other things that eventually will be opening. What have we, I guess, been doing to evaluate, limitations of, do we have limitations on, PPE or sanitizing agents or staff time for completing these? And, I think we should really be thinking right now as to, putting ourselves in a position so when we are opening up that we're prepared to do so.
Yeah, good questions. Our program, our staff time will be the same as it's always been budgeted to be. Our staff is usually here 45 minutes or so in advance of the participants in the morning. So they have the opportunity to re-sanitize things. We are doing well with sanitizers. We were able to get a case of hand sanitizer with pump bottles. We were able to get a case of wipes just before things kind of closed down. We're doing well with the PPE here at the senior center right now. And yeah, we're going to be absorbing, you're right, we're going to be absorbing more hours spent cleaning than our staff has ever had to do before, which is, it obviously is going to have an impact, and yet we feel like we need to go forward to accommodate people's needs, and so we'll make it work. Some of the time that we used to spend on other things that we can't right now will get shifted to cleaning.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Corey, to answer some of your questions too, we've been taking kind of the proactive approach of trying to acquire some PPE, extra cleaning supplies. We've actually done been very successful in the last week working with our supplier in, I hate to use the word stocking up, but we have been with the anticipation of opening our facilities where we can be offering. I mean, the biggest thing right now, honestly, is disinfectant and wipes. Wipes is kind of the hot thing, and we've been able to actually find a good supply of those. A lot of our suppliers are saying it will be July, August when kind of the manufacturing and supply of all that is going to catch up. But I think we have enough to carry us safely, easily into that time period.
David, do you have a question?
He's muted.
Thank you, Mike. Rachel, do we have to submit a plan to the county to get approval for reopening our adult daycare program in order to make sure that we don't threaten the loss of any of our funding?
No, as far as I've been able to tell, we don't have to formally do that. I have to alert them that we are back, that we will be back up and running. But they, based on the inspections, I think the state inspections that we have done, if we were a program that had previously had some question marks attached to it, we might have some different hoops to jump, but we've been perfect in our state inspections lately. So, but I will certainly follow up and double check with them and let them know that it is our intention to reopen and ask if there's anything additional they require from us in terms of documentation or planning in order to be able to do that. Thank you.
Corey?
How are we going to fairly, I guess, deal with, if we have a limitation on the number of people, and if we have a lot more people that want to participate that can't, how are we going to equitably let, people participate and share that resource?
So what we did was we spoke with current participants and found out how many days per week they felt they would like to return and participate. And we found that a lot of our people wanted to return at 3 days a week. And we also found that by offering people that option, everybody 2 days a week, we could accommodate everybody. So nobody is getting all of what they want, but everybody is getting about the same amount of what they had requested. And then we have a little excess space that we're kind of holding open because we're aware of a couple of situations in the community where there are families who wanted to get their loved one into our program while we were closed down. And we want to make sure that those situations are able to be addressed as well. So ultimately, as we get our bearings with this program, we might be able to expand a bit and use our main hall instead of our current adult day program room. Our main hall is larger and we could put more people in it and still have the safe social distancing. So if we find we need to grow a little bit, that's what the plan is.
All right. Thank you, Rachel, for letting us know about that.
Thank you.
Or anything else before we move on? All right, then we will go to item 5B, which is a review of village attorney's memo regarding religious entities.
Real quick, did we ask, our response to Deb's letter in the packet is going to be not at this time for softball resuming?
I'm actually going to send a letter out to all the. I have a group email list that I'm going to send out either tomorrow or the following day to all the organizations, telling them what's going on with the playing fields. Now I'll include Deb in that email.
Okay, thanks. I just wanted to make sure we addressed that.
Yep.
Carry on.
Yep.
All right, Matt, you want to review your memo on religious entities?
Matt, you're muted.
Sorry about that.
That's my new job.
Mute, please.
Yeah, I'm just looking. I got to look up my draft of the memo. Here we go. Okay. Let's get to the.
And so, Matt, this did not get changed now with this forward, Dane. This is still in effect. Your memo's still very consistent with what's in the plan.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So, as I understand the order, religious organizations are now treated as an essential business and are allowed to operate subject to the same recommendations and requirements that apply to other essential businesses. So they need to follow social distancing guidelines, restrict the number of workers present on the premises to no more than what's reasonably necessary, increase cleaning and disinfection, and institute policies to keep workers away if they're sick, and so on. So, what this tells me is that, church services, funeral services, weddings, things of that nature are allowable, but the safe business practices that are recommended and required for any other essential business would apply to religious organizations as well.
Any questions on that? All right, we'll move on to item C. Thank you, Matt. Discussion of upcoming elections during COVID-19 pandemic crisis and absentee voting.
Candy, do you want to talk about this, please? A little bit?
Sure. So there's a lot of things going on about, I'm sure you've heard about absentee voting and the potential option of Dane County actually reached out to us and asked us if it would be beneficial for them to send out a absentee ballot request to every single voter in the village, which, while I think that is something that may be beneficial, right now we have over 1,500 requests on file for the next two elections already. So I think that it would probably cause more confusion than anything. So we responded back to the county that we think the option right now, the best option would be to do as much public education, like commercials, radio ads, especially for the older voters that don't have any way to upload their photo ID or anything like that. So that's what we shared with the county, and that's what actually takes the longest with the absentee voting. A lot of the requests that we get in, probably I think 50% we have to contact the voter again because something wasn't included, something wasn't done correctly, so which all takes time, and we're super happy to do because we want everybody to have the chance to vote. But I feel that there's a lot of things that still need to be worked out before we can go to an all mail-in absentee ballot procedure. So I'm hoping that they kind of work that out while we have some time, so we're not crunched up the night before deciding if we're going to have an election. But that's how it goes. We did talk staff level about the August election. We will probably have it all here at Village Hall again when we ran all the numbers, just because it did seem to work well. Our August election probably won't be as big of turnout as April will, but with absentee voting, we could be surprised. There could be more. So that kind of gives the rundown. Is there anything else, Mike, you wanted me to talk about?
No, thank you. The one thing we did talk about today, Candy, was there's that lawsuit that was filed that, and as part of that lawsuit, they're saying if you're going to do the mail-in voting, you have to get rid of the voter ID. So we'll see where that goes the next couple months.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a lawsuit. Yeah, we'll see.
I do. Yeah, we'll see what that happens. Yep. And I've also been working with Jeff too. When we stacked up some of the supplies, we were thinking about the election as well. So
that's right. Yep.
Thanks to Jeff for finding me all the hand sanitizer I need. So
thanks, Candy.
Amanda. Hi, I have a question for you, Candy. I just wanted to clarify if somebody has signed up for to get the ballots for the rest of the year, so they'll get one for August by mail and then November. If they fail to return their August ballot, then they would have to reapply to get one mailed to them for November. Is that correct?
Well, actually, there's a process with that. So what happens is if you don't return a ballot, we send a letter that says if you don't you didn't return your ballot and you have 30 days to get this letter back to me to remain on the permanent list or the absentee list. What I am finding that I actually have talked to the Wisconsin Elections Commission about, and this was a problem actually in April too. So you go on to My Vote, which we encourage everybody to go through My Vote because it's the easiest way to get your request in to upload your photo ID. And we we tell you to try to use your smartphone so that you can take a picture of your photo ID before you begin the process, so everything is there. But one of the things is if people put in a request, let's say I put in a request on April 1st, okay? And I put it in for the calendar year, right? So now I voted in the April election, but now I go back in and I fill out another request just for the partisan primary. So that calendar year request gets terminated because you put in another request. So that's the one of the issues that I'm finding is people are putting in multiple requests. So they're canceling themselves out of some of them. So actually in the office right now, we're kind of going through and reviewing all the requests to make sure that we can see what we actually printed them out, just so that we can kind of cross-check and alert voters as much as possible to try not to duplicate those requests, because there was a lot of duplicates. Because if people weren't getting their ballot as fast as they thought they should have been, because some people actually thought that the ballots came from the state, mailed them out, like, and it was computer generated. They didn't know that it came from the Village of Oregon. So they thought that they were supposed to get their absentee ballot the next day. They would submit another request. I mean, we had some people submit 4 or 5 requests. So every time that request cancels out the previous request, if that makes sense. So again, with the public education and trying to make everybody aware of how my vote works. So
Excellent. Thank you, Candy. All right. Next is the Village's 2020 Memorial Day services have been canceled. Item 5E, this is a possible board action regarding resolution number 20-19, waiving interest and penalties on certain delinquent property tax installment payments due in 2020. We have a recommended motion to approve this resolution. Would someone like to make that motion or start a discussion? Randy?
This is Randy. I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Jenna, are you seconding? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Have we had anybody asking for this?
This is something that was started at the state level. The county
Right.
board, approved their resolution, which allowed us to pass the resolution. So whether or not anyone takes advantage of it, I'm not sure, but I think it's just I hate saying the word gesture, but it's just a goodwill gesture on our part in case somebody needs some help before October.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. I just was curious if any residents had.
I don't.
had asked
Candy
for
or
it.
Lisa? Have you heard? I don't think so.
Thank you.
I haven't heard any.
Where's Lisa? I don't see Lisa.
David?
The penalty date starts for calculation of interest in fees starts October 1. Does that penalty include back interest from the missing the date in April or whenever the filing deadline was? Or does the clock toll until October 1st and then it starts the penalty calculation?
You want to answer that, Lisa, or should I? What?
She's muted.
It's
Okay.
been a while since I've read through this, so I'm
Yeah, basically it says interest and penalties shall accrue from October 1st, 2020. It says of October 1st.
so, yeah.
Would it be an additional incentive to indicate that the penalties and fees would begin calculation on October 1, but would include the time that has tolled since the original deadline, as a way to say, if you're going to take advantage of it, take advantage of it. But it has a multiplier effect, if you will, if you don't.
But it says interest and penalties shall accrue from October 1st, 2020 for any property tax payable that are delinquent after October 1st, 2020. So they have the ability to pay it before that time, and if anything after that, then that's when the penalties kick in.
I'm not explaining myself well.
Oh.
I understand that part, but I guess what I'm saying is to encourage people to take advantage of this would be that you add additional penalties and fees during that, what was April 15th through October 1. If they don't, if they pay on October 15th instead, they'd have to pay all the back penalties and all the back fees. It's just an idea of adding to the value of this by encouraging people to take advantage of it and pay by October 1.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's not needed. I don't know. if we're not having a lot of people.
We really haven't. Yeah.
Amanda, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, isn't it dependent on the Dane County resolution, and what that allows? I don't know if we can go outside the scope of what they've done.
This is the resolution that communities are adopting, consistent with the Dane County resolution, Amanda. Correct. Yep.
Okay, that's my fear. I just, and I don't necessarily. It may be added incentive, but it seems it seems unnecessary to me.
I like to be unique, Amanda.
Yes, Corey.
I would like to leave it as is with the October 1st. My thought is if somebody is struggling to be able to pay it, I don't see the need to penalize them further.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem. It was just an idea that popped in my head.
All right. Then we will. So do we have a motion and a second on this?
You do, yes. Mhm.
Yes. All right. So pending no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to item 5F. This is the initial 2020 budget impacts discussion and possible board action and direction regarding, and then we have some bullet points here. I will read these out loud. So at the end of the second quarter, we will have a better cost estimates of the impact of COVID-19 purchases and decreasing revenue. For example, investment income. Department heads will be scrutinizing expenses through 2020. Personnel decisions for some department positions. Proposed public work savings of approximately $50,000 in 2020 by not filling following positions. There's 3 LTE positions listed there, and then also a full-time position. That position was to be filled in 2021. The police department will have savings between $50,000 and $60,000 in 2020 as a result of vacant positions, which the department is trying to fill, including the police lieutenant position. And then we have a vacant senior center administrative assistant position. So Mike, what do you want to hit on here?
I think generally speaking, a department head cannot fill a position without getting authority or approval, from the board. So it isn't like they're going to rush out and fill positions without the board's approval. But I think generally speaking, we don't, you'll see some communities, Dane counties had this in effect, City of Madison, a hiring freeze. And so I wouldn't say we have a hiring freeze on, but what I've been telling, except I appreciate Jeff's, decision on some of his position. And it's just happened naturally in the police department because we have vacant officer positions. And now with Jenny being promoted, there's going to be a position open throughout, all throughout 2020 as people get promoted. I'm just making the board aware, and I'm making department heads aware that if you have positions and you're trying to fill them, that could be a challenge in 2021 when Lisa and I come to each department head and say, you need to do something in your budget, reduce it or something to try to hold the levy down. And so at this point, I'm not asking for any board direction on it. I think what I have on the agenda is what we're going to be doing on all the departments. And as I stated in the first bullet point, we'll have a lot better understanding of where we are headed after the second quarter because of all the purchases for PPE equipment and the money we spent on the first election as well. So at this point, I think Lisa and I are still feeling that we're going to balance the budget in 2020, particularly with these personnel savings. But until we get through more of the year, it's hard to say. But we have begun to obviously scrutinize purchases, and we'll be doing that throughout the year as well.
All right. Any questions or comments on that? Jerry.
Thank you. I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, what will not get done in Public Works by not filling those LTE positions?
Well, those two LTE positions are some of our parks positions. We will have less mowing that we'll be doing at a period of times. We're going to try to keep up with everything we can, and a lot of it can be kind of weather dependent, but that's our plan. We just, as a way, we're looking forward to probably more of a hurt budget wise, and so we kind of look at where, what ways we can cut. We'll be hiring 4 LTEs here in the next couple of weeks, so those we'll still be able to bring on some additional summer staff that will help us out. But obviously, and people have probably seen a few parks getting a little shaggy, and we hopefully will get everything, but there'll be some drainage ways and some other things that won't get mowed as often as people probably hope or want or expect.
We went through a similar process when we were going through the recession. We actually went through a number of years even before Jeff got here that we didn't have any LTEs. Lisa reminded me of that the other day. So so I think this is a good beginning correction, Jerry. And I will probably make some more as we get further into the year. But we're also and we're going to talk about this tomorrow with the department heads. We're just to forewarn department heads of what the 21 budget's going to look like. So,
okay, thank you, Mike. I'm somewhat relieved to see these steps being taken right now, because it's not as if the pandemic is not going to affect our budget. It's just how big of a hole will it blow in the budget?
That's correct. I mean, we're not like the city of Madison. We don't, we have a room tax, but our budget's not dependent on it. We're not dependent on a lot of fees, parking fees, right, Jeff? Right. So I mean, but Lisa and I are going to talk to the board about being somewhat sensitive in the 21 budget as how much the levy goes up, and we're going to try to keep it down because we know people are going to be hurting for the next couple of years. So.
Question on the police department, and I know it's kind of ironic that we have a new chief right now, but then we're saying, hey, we're not going to fill your positions, chief.
No, Jerry, we're not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's going to be, you have a promotion process, and so you promote somebody to be lieutenant, then it opens up a position, and so you have a position being open just naturally because of the promotion. Okay. And the chances that you're going to fill that last position after 2 promotions in 2020 is highly unlikely. Just how long it takes to recruit for an officer. I know Jenny agrees with me. But
I understand.
Yep.
So it's not like we're leaving a position open. We're just haven't filled it yet.
It's just the timing of it. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Timing, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just wondering, the reason I asked is I was wondering if those steps will result in additional overtime.
No,
Okay.
essentially it'll be me doing both jobs, prioritizing, taking probably the top half of the list and suspending the rest of the list. But another reason that this is a good idea is for the interview process, social distancing is going to be extremely difficult. And to do this through Zoom or something like that just doesn't have the impact. So delaying filling the lieutenant position won't necessarily be a bad thing for us. But we will be able to manage.
Okay. Thank you. That answers my questions.
Corey, did you have questions?
I just wanted to thank the staff for their frugality, and we're going to be in a tough time with COVID, and then we all kind of knew 2021 is going to be difficult as well. But I know we're not flush with extra staff in public works or our police department or the senior center. So as needs come up, if we need to have discussions, let's have discussions of what we need to do. But I just wanted to thank the staff for what they're doing to try and help the situation.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Mike, when will we revisit budget again?
Well, for sure after the second quarter,
Okay.
but I could see this happening. Maybe not every meeting, but maybe in a month, like I may see how we're doing again.
Okay. Yep. Sounds very good.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, a public appearance. We have none. Item 7, approval of minutes. We have minutes from May 4th, 2020, which was a virtual meeting with Zoom. Would someone like to make a motion to approve those, please?
I'll make a motion to approve those.
I have a motion by Jacobson and a second by Glish. Excellent. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have vouchers. All right, so the voucher list for May 19th, 2020. We have a total for approval tonight in the amount of $1,272,924.84. So would someone like to make a motion to approve these, to get these on the table, please?
I'll go move those.
Glish will second.
All right, so a motion by Bollig and a second by Glish. All right, questions for staff?
Bollig doesn't have any. It's unusual, but you guys are getting really, really good at this.
Sorry.
Jeannie, I have a couple.
All right, yes, go ahead, Randy.
So number 8778, I think this is for Lisa. It looks like the Postal Service. I think I know what it is. It's just water utility bill, sewer 582. I'm guessing, Lisa, that's just postage, correct?
That's the monthly postage to mail out the.
Yeah, that's what I figured. It just caught my eye.
Yep.
And then the next one I had was, this is for Mike, 8926. Looks like a Kyle maybe bill. And my question is, was that for the fire EMS? Because we used them for some discussion, Mike.
No, that's for village business.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I had one more here. And this is for Jeff. I think I know the answer, but 12884. I'm assuming, Jeff, that you buy this early. You buy our salt early for next winter, and that's what this is?
Actually, this would be for some of our late season, the remainder of that we had. What we do at the end of the year is we see where we ended up, and we try to fill our salt shed with what we have left from the previous year's contract.
Okay, very good. That's it, Jenny.
All right, any others? All right, Candy, would you like to do a roll call vote then on vouchers?
Sure. Peterson.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Glish.
Yes.
Donovan.
Yes.
Carpenter.
Yes.
And Bollig.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Item 9, proclamations and announcements. Are there board comments from anyone? Yes, Corey.
I would just like to mention that the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation has a nice set of guidelines for reopening your business safely, and they have it organized by industry specific. So if any of our businesses are wondering, how do they go about this? There's a lot of good guidance on the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, correct? That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else? Jerry.
Yes, I want to just compliment Public Works again. I go by the Butter Creek. What park is back in there again? I can't remember.
That's
Jeff.
Thompson Park.
Thompson Park, yeah. And the work continues there, and that's really, really looking wonderful. I don't know how to describe it any better.
It's when you take someone with a shaggy haircut and they get a really nice haircut and they look completely different.
Well, there's a lot of us like that right now.
Yes, exactly. But thank you, Jerry. That looks, I agree.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, then we will go on to staff comments. It looks like Mike would like to have a special board meeting either on June 8th or June 22nd for review of the wastewater treatment plant facilities plan. Are you looking to see which date works better?
Yes, please. It's really not me. This is for Jeff Rowell.
Oh, Jeff
Oh, then-
Rao.
Then
Jeff,
why-
I'd like to lobby for this meeting, buddy.
Well, I just want to say, we don't want to put this under a regular meeting. This is the presentation by our engineer of the wastewater treatment plant facilities plan. And I've reviewed the document. You'll get the document ahead of time once we set the date here and everything. And I would encourage you all to read it. It's a great read, but I know they've done a nice job with it. But it does really map out a lot of very expensive things we have coming in the future. And we really want to be able to have a meeting, a good time in a meeting to be able to present it and take any questions on it.
Yes, Jerry.
Jeff, is this for budget next year, or is this just for something we're going to have in place soon, or what exactly is this plan for?
This is essentially the roadmap for our wastewater treatment plant and wastewater treatment for the next 20 years.
Oh, okay. I'm sure that'll be very interesting.
Yep. Yeah, it is interesting, and it also involves us looking at our potential to one day pump to Madison,
which is coming up later on the agenda.
Yes.
Is there anyone that one of those dates does not work for? All right, so I guess, Jeff, you get to tell us which date you want. You want to do it sooner or later?
I'm doing the 8th.
Let's do it on
I assume those are excuse me, I assume those are Monday nights, correct?
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
Let's do it on the 8th.
5 o'clock on the 8th.
I still have every Monday night blocked off on my calendar. Yeah. Just
Great.
hoping there'll be a meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you'll regret this one. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So then we have some upcoming virtual meetings. So June 1st, we have our village board meeting, which includes the annual alcohol beverage license renewal.
You know that'll be a virtual meeting.
June 8th, do we need the special personnel public safety and
That-
protection committee meeting?
No, that we don't need that.
Okay. So we're crossing off, and instead we will have the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, I forgot to change that. Yep, we don't need that.
Okay. On June 15th, we'll have a village board meeting. That will be a joint meeting with the library board to review fundraising status for the new library building and scheduling the August budget meeting. And that
Great.
meeting has been set forever.
Yep.
So, okay. July 6th, no board meeting. July 13th, we will have a board meeting. And then July 22nd at 6:30 p.m., a joint meeting with the towns for the senior center and fire EMS district. All right. Any questions from anyone on any of those? All right, so then we move on to item 10, communication and miscellaneous business. Since item A directly involves a business that I own with my husband, I'm going to recuse myself from the meeting and turn it over to Vice President Jerry Bollig.
Thank you. This is related to a facade grant that the carpenters are doing at the Firefly. And I don't know who the moderator is, but please hold it still. I'm having trouble reading it with it moving around like that. At the August 5th board meeting, we approved a facade grant for Firefly in the amount of $796.81 for tuck pointing and replacing falling bricks on the west facade of the building at 114 North Main Street. For anyone that doesn't know what tuck pointing is, it's replacing the mortar in between the bricks. After a certain age, that stuff starts falling out. And that's basically what this reimbursement will be for. So I have a recommended motion that I'm going to read, and that's to approve an amended facade improvement grant to Firefly Coffee House for a total grant of $1,947.37 for tuck pointing and replacing failing bricks on the west facade of the building at 114 North Main Street. And that's the building at the Firefly Coffee House.
Jerry, this is Randy.
Yes.
I'll move approval, please.
Thank you.
Second.
And we've got a second by Amanda, or Jenna. Sounded like Jenna. Was it Jenna?
It was.
Okay. So we've got a motion by Randy, a second by Jenny. Any further discussion or comment on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The grant is approved.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Hey, so your eyes on the call, and thanks for being here for no questions there, Honey Bear.
Go back
Isn't
to
this
work.
exciting? You should come to every meeting.
Especially when it gets called Honey Bear.
If I didn't already have 2.5 jobs, it'd be
Yeah.
very.
Yeah, right.
All right, go back to work. Good talk. All right, moving on to item 10B. This is a discussion and possible action regarding acquisition of new village phone system. We have a recommended motion. The village staff recommends approving Computer Magic Inc.'s proposal with an amount not to exceed $65,000 to procure a new phone system village-wide. Someone like to make that motion or start a discussion?
Jacobson will make that motion.
All right, so we have a motion by Jenna to approve that. Is there a second?
I'll second, Jeannie.
And a second by Randy. Is there any discussion or questions on Candy's memo? It was a nice memo, Candy. Yes, David.
I couldn't tell from the memo. Will this cost hit us all in 1 year, or will it be spread out over a couple of years?
It was borrowed, right, Mike?
It was borrowed, correct.
Borrowed with the 2020 borrowing. So
It's a payment. David, the payment to Computer Magic will be a payment we'll make in 2020.
in 2020, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and 1 month.
Bollig has a question.
Yes, Gary.
Is that phone system going to be installed in 2020 then, or will that be the following year?
I'm going to contact them tomorrow if you approve this, and we're going to keep it moving because it can take up to 2 months to get everything switched over.
Mm-hmm.
So
Does
we
that
want to
include-
get it. Go ahead.
Does that include training?
Yes.
Yep.
It
Okay.
does. And that's
And does it-
actually, go ahead.
Does that include a warranty?
It does. It
Can you
does.
explain what the warranty is, please?
It's actually a 5-year warranty on the system itself, the the hardware. And one of the benefits that I think is also helpful or beneficial, I should say, is once this is installed, it's going to be covered under our already our current, what is it, the information technology contract, maintenance contract, I should say, that we pay Computer Magic already for our monthly services for our emails, our computers, and that stuff. So they're going to be able to support it well beyond the 5 years as well.
So if I can ask one further question, please, Candy.
Yes.
So that when you say it's included under the current maintenance contract, does that mean if you have questions or something's not working right, they will come in and take care of it at no additional cost?
Well, I'm not saying that in that 5 years that if something was wrong with it and needed more parts, I'm sure that they would have to charge for parts after the 5 years, but the maintenance part of it and the support will be included in that contract.
And define what you mean by support then. Is it?
So they'll be able to help us find the stuff that we need after that 5-year warranty is expired.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm more concerned with the operation of it during the 5 years. If things aren't working right or there are glitches in the system, will that get remedied? That's basically okay.
Yes. Even in the 5 years, Computer Magic will help us with everything.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Corey, go ahead.
How does the contract work when we have building changeovers like the library and future buildings?
Well, that's actually one of the things that we want to evaluate in a few years when we get closer to having a new building for the library. That's one of the, I think that's when the time would be to send out the request for proposal, because we're going to have to find out what our IT needs are going to be and our phone system. So, but I think, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that that's good, probably 5 to 7 years out yet.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, we're hoping this system takes us that far out, right? Not 20 years like this current one.
Yeah. We're hoping it gets installed before this one.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say it.
Don't say it. Don't jinx us.
Well, we got to get the system up and running and working before the end of the contract so Mike can retire.
Yeah.
We're gonna give him the old system as a.
Thank you, Candy. Thank you very much. Big
Does
room
that
in my house.
Will that include maintenance, Candy?
Oh, you got that right.
Yep, it's just from Balig Enterprises.
Other questions on this item? All right, are we ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion to approve the Computer Magic Inc. proposal, vote or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Sure. All right. Item C. This is continuing discussion and possible action regarding shared services agreement with City of Fitchburg and the Oregon School District for future middle school site immediately north of Prairie Mound Cemetery and Highway MM in Fitchburg. We have some background information. There's in our packet, I believe there's a review of the Oregon School District, the conceptual diagram of the Fitchburg Donaldson site. We have a review of future land use map from the recently adopted City of Fitchburg comp plan showing the school site. Per Dr. Busler, the development process would be cost neutral for the Village of Oregon and the City of Fitchburg. Discussion and sewer interceptor project with City of Fitchburg. And then lastly, the City of Fitchburg will not detach the property into the Village of Oregon. And then I think in your packet are 2 letters that are addressed to me that I didn't actually receive them, but they were dropped off at Village Hall today a little after 4 p.m. And they are both from Steve Zock, who is the school board president of the Oregon School District. And those are in the packet, right, Mike?
That's correct. Yep.
Right. So if you haven't had a chance to look at those letters, the first one says that the Oregon School Board today authorized Dr. Busler to take all necessary steps to see the Oregon School District's portion of Alpine Park to the Village of Oregon for the price set forth in the March 20th, 2006 agreement between the district and the village, and that the school board has directed Dr. Busler to facilitate that transfer as soon as possible. Do you think? Oh, it's supposed to say sell.
Yeah. This is in response to a letter I think the board authorized me to send last summer, and this has been discussed at the school board level at different times. And so now Dr. Busler is saying, or Steve Zock is saying, that Dr. Busler now will work to sell the property back to the village.
Okay.
So Mike, Jeannie, can I just ask, Mike, this is the one that we've been waiting for quite a long time.
Correct, Randy. We actually borrowed the money to buy it back because we know the amount is $244,000 approximately.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Excuse me,
So
Mike.
Oh, sir.
Mike Balig has a question.
Yep.
That piece of property is the piece that's contingent to the West Side Park, right?
Correct. It's between CC and the property we own along
Okay.
Alpine Park. Yep.
But he doesn't mention the price.
He does. As set forth in the March 20th, 2006
Oh, the agreement. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It's in there. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. And then the second letter, which is now in the packet, this is also from Steve Zock, and it says that They understand that tonight we are considering a recommendation to provide direction to village staff with respect to working with the district on shared services agreement on the future school site. And they are requesting the opportunity for representatives of the school board to sit down with representatives of the village board to discuss the process by which the board acquired the Donaldson property, its rationale for buying the property, and the mutual interests the village, city, and district have in locating future schools in that location. And they are envisioning that process would be similar to that in which we negotiated the school resource officer agreement. So those are some late developments, breaking news. So we can add
I
that
have a question.
mix. Yes,
So-
Randy.
So this is all related to our discussion on the sewer and water.
Yes, I would say evidenced by the fact that those two letters came in after 4 p.m. today, delivered to Mike Grace, that they believe those letters will affect the agenda item where we are discussing
Yeah.
shared services agreement. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I kind of thought that.
All right. So, so Mike, do you want to just maybe kick us off by telling us what steps you took following the discussion we had at the last meeting?
Yep. So I talked to Dr. Bussler and Patrick Marsh, the city administrator in Fitchburg, and I think that's what I think that's what probably generated the two letters, particularly the one on Alpine Parkway. I certainly communicated the fact that I think it would move the process along further by if we could just remove that issue and get the property sold back to the village. So I know I appreciate that by the school district doing that. And I put these maps in the pack because I wanted the board to see. Thanks, Elise. I wanted the board to see this is their initial concept plan, and they're looking at the two schools. The first school would be the middle school that's further to the south on the property. And then, as Jeannie said, that second map was the map showing that as part of the recent City of Fitchburg comprehensive plan update, they did put this as a school site or institutional zoning in this area. So it is. So if they have permission to build a school there, obviously they have to go through the process in Fitchburg yet. And then Dr. Bussler wanted me to indicate to the board that, and maybe this is a term he used, cost neutral. The district realizes that they're acting like a developer. They're coming to the city to do development in the city, and they're going to be coming to the village to get utilities. They realize that they're going to end up, the school district going to end up paying for that process. And so that was a term that he used, was cost neutral for both the village and the city. And the other thing that came up was when I was talking to Pat Marsh about potentially bringing a sewer interceptor, and this is what Jeff was talking about the facility plan. I think there's some interest by Fitchburg to look at least studying that with us. And so what Patrick thought he'd do is, after talking to the mayor, that he take a resolution to the planning commission in Fitchburg, take it to the council, and then if that would all get approved, we would actually start having discussions about bringing an interceptor to the village. And the reason I asked for that is that I didn't want us to spend 2 or 3 years talking to the staff about it and then have it get up to the council and then not have support for it. So I appreciate Pat, going through that process. It takes a little bit of process to get through that in Fitchburg. I think Patrick has to put it on the city council agenda, and then it gets referred out to planning, and then it comes back to the city council. So it could take maybe a month and a half before it comes back. But one thing that Pat did say was that, I know some board members are asking about this, they have no interest in detaching the school property to the village. And I'll be very honest with you, I don't see a real benefit to the village to take that property. So when Pat hopefully gets the resolution approved by the council, he's going to put the resolution and the city's position that they will not detach the property in a letter, and I'll put that on the board agenda when I get that letter from Pat.
Jeannie?
Yes, Randy.
Mike, my eyes aren't deceiving me. Do I see 7 soccer fields?
Yeah, that's the school districts. They know the community needs playing fields.
Okay.
And they've been listening to it, the concern that we don't have enough playing fields, and so I think they're really trying to do their part to in the future to address that. And
Yeah, good for them. Good for them.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep. No, I think that's what they. I know when I saw this for the first time, that's the first thing that came to mind. And I know Dr. Busser mentioned me. That's the district trying to do their part to help deal with the playing field shortage we have in the area. So, yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Yes, Corey.
I guess I'm very encouraged by the two letters. I think one of our primary concerns was, financially, the village, didn't really have the means or kind of the duty to, incur the costs that it's going to take. So hearing this is going to be cost neutral, I think is very favorable for us. And I think their recommendation to have, representation from all sides kind of get together and kind of work through the details. I think just like the SRO agreement, we need to sit down and go through this. And I really like that suggestion.
Thank you. David.
To follow up on Corey's comments, I like that idea as well, but I'd like to have those meetings kick off before we make a decision on whether we're going to provide sewer and water service here, because it may influence some of my consideration. It still looks like they're going to have 2 access points coming through residential areas, and I'm not sure that's going to be the best way to serve a school. And then the third point is going to be on one of the busiest highways in the morning and the evening for traffic into and out of Oregon. I'm still not convinced this is the best location. I'd like to understand where they're coming from before I make up my mind.
I think that's the point of having this group get together, was to talk about that, David, right?
I agree. I agree. But I think we should have those meetings before we make a decision on this, though.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And I should just a little bit of background. For many, many years, when we were talking about doing the joint business park with Fitchburg, we always wanted, this is actually a Mike Slavny recommendation, we always wanted to extend Perry Parkway up to MM there. So we'd have almost like our mini belt line around the village. So I think that's actually a recommendation coming from the village to extend the road. Just background.
Jerry.
Thank you. It's been interesting listening to the conversation going on over this issue, and this is my 19th year on the board, and I remember when we had those discussions before, and after a lot of time and a lot of effort, they proved to be fruitless because, Mike, didn't Fitchburg walk away from the table back then?
Well, in some cases, when I first got here, the first initial ones, they just never went anywhere. There was at least one time. This is when actually this goes back a few years. This actually goes back to 2005, when our board actually voted to go ahead with the joint business park, and it did fail at city council in Fitchburg, and which is why, I think it would be good to get that resolution from Fitchburg before we start talking about the interceptor. And I should indicate, the interceptor is somewhat related to this property, but it's actually sort of its own issue, to be very honest with you. I mean, potentially the interceptor could serve this property, but it may not happen. And so, we need to be doing taking this other avenue with the school district to be meeting with them to start talking about providing water and sewer to them.
So there's no guarantee that this is going to go anywhere. We're just going to hopefully move in that direction. But I guess my concerns deal with the cost neutral part of it. I can't believe that it's going to be cost neutral. I mean, we're going to have, as David mentioned, major traffic issues twice a day at least. And that's going to, involve a lot of extra police monitoring, SRO. It's going to cause problems in the neighborhoods around that. And again, by Highway 14 there's going to be a lot of school traffic going over to McDonald's area and the shopping center over there, not to mention the foot traffic through the cemetery. and the neighborhoods.
So Jerry, you have to sort of take a step back and let's say this was a company A coming in to wanting to do the same situation. I think what Dr. Buster is saying is they're going to be treated just like a developer. So we would be signing some type of reimbursement agreement with them. And as you go through that planning process, the issues that you and David are raising, those are the things that we would be talking about with them in the city of Fitchburg. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me touch on another issue then. Mm-hmm. My perception is village staff is very busy right now. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We're soon good to be starting budget, and that's going to be even more complicated this year because of the pandemic. And what stings a little bit is the fact that this piece of property was purchased and nobody came to the village before they purchased it. And so now all of a sudden, hey, village, work with us. And I guess that stings a little bit. And, maybe it's easier to ask forgiveness than ask permission. I don't know what the logic is there, but I don't know. If they were to detach that lot and let the village annex it, I think I'd be a little receptive to this. But I kind of don't agree with Mike that we don't want it because it's going to be more than a school site. And
you mean the school district's property?
Yeah,
it's going to be more of a one of the things that Matt has suggested is that before they get water and sewer, the property will be deed restricted only for a school, Jerry.
Okay, all right. Well, at any rate, it's an Oregon school, again, in Fitchburg. It wouldn't matter where it was. We're still not going to get any revenue from it because it is a school. And it's tax exempt.
That's right.
But again, would have been a lot better if the pandemic wasn't happening right now. Would have been a lot better if we started these discussions before the property was purchased so we could lodge our concerns during the negotiation process. And, now all of a sudden the rush is on. And I don't know. I don't feel like being in any rush on this. I really don't. And especially with the staff as busy as it is. And I know you folks are busy. And you're going to get busier as we get closer to budget and depending on what happens with the pandemic. And I tell you what, my emphasis, my priority, and I hope my colleagues' priority is with dealing with the budget and protecting our residents from personal budget problems. And I don't know that we need to take this on right now. If there was no pandemic, I'd be like, oh, let's, see where this goes. But we don't know how big and how deep this budget hole is going to be. And I would rather proceed real cautiously on the school and just say, hey, put it on hold for a while. From my understanding, the other schools, there's plenty of vacancy in the other schools now. They aren't operating at maximum capacity. And plus there's like 3-4 miles up the road, there's a new school going in now. So I wish I could be more excited about this. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. All right, so Randy and then Corey.
Yeah, so Mike, this is for you, and I apologize. It's I haven't had my dinner yet, so might be a little slow. But the property across from the food pantry is not contingent on approval of this, correct? We could get that property tomorrow.
We could the 2006 agreement would allow us to buy the property at the end of this year if there's not a school built on it, Randy.
Okay.
But
So
but
it's
with the
not
first
anything
letter that
contingent on this. Nothing contingent on this project.
I think the school district is trying to.
I'm sure they are. Yeah.
Yeah, being a good partner, and they've always been a good partner with us. I think they're just trying to work with us on this. They know we want to start working on planning for the park. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
All right, Corey.
I guess first of all, I know that there's a lot of history with the business park, and I have really no knowledge of that. But to me, this is dramatically different. This is our own school district. I think one of the biggest reasons why Oregon is a success in what it is, people talk about our school. And, I think we need to rely on our school board that they're operating what they think is in the best way that they can for the function and kind of keeping up the high quality schools that we need for the village to remain the village. So, as much as I know that there's history there, I don't think that the Oregon Business Park mentality needs to be a part of this, discussion. I think that, we have a lot to gain by this. If we want to remain viable and grow and have positive schools, I think we have a lot to gain by being a partner in this project. I think, as much as some people are, pushing us to want to annex this property, I think, as I mentioned in the last meeting, any condition that we want included in this can be a part of the development agreement that we put together for the project. So, I think, we just need to sit down and have the conversation. And I guess I would like a little bit of clarity. I've been told that as much as we didn't have, a direct board discussion on this parcel, it's my understanding that staff have been talking about that. And I guess, Mike, could you clarify, what discussions have happened both before, during, and after the parcel was purchased?
Yeah, so I mean, I knew that they were looking at different parcels in Fitchburg, and I knew this was one of them. But I'm freely telling you that I knew that, but I did not realize that they're going to buy the entire parcel until I actually saw it in the Observer when the article came out.
So were there not any meetings where it was discussed for connection to our wastewater before they purchased the property?
Mm-hmm. Like I said, it was something that was mentioned to us as one of the properties they were thinking of purchasing in Fitchburg. But like, for example, but we didn't have, my internet connections, but we did not have like what they're suggesting, having meetings with school district officials where we actually started going into detail about providing services to them.
Yeah, I think I really would have liked to have had those discussions, before the parcel was purchased. But, I think at this point, we just need to sit down and work through things.
Yeah, and I think in the letter that Steve Zock sent, I think they want to explain why, there's probably some history or some bargaining reasons why they didn't want to do that. And I think they want to explain that to, don't they say it in the letter, Jeannie, I think? Yeah, or, yeah, it does say that, yeah. Yeah.
Jeannie?
Yes, well, Jenna first, then Randy.
Okay.
My concerns are still there that we all talked about at the last meeting, but I really like the idea of going forward with some sort of working group like we did with the SRO agreement. I think that could potentially answer a lot of my questions. So I think that's a great proposal, and I want to see us move forward with that.
All right. Yes, Randy.
So I would just echo what Corey and Jenna just said. Is there any problem with us just sitting down and talking to them, having a conversation? We're not, saying yes or no, but just listening. That's all I wanted to say.
My only question was staff. Mike, you obviously have to be part of this discussion. This is, I mean, they're requesting representatives of our board to sit down with representatives of their board, but in all realities, there's always staff at those meetings, as there was in the SRO.
Mhm.
Do you feel like you have time to do this right now? Could this wait until the fall, until after budget? Again, I mean, we're in a pandemic. I know that your plate is pretty full. And so the reason I ask that is that the school still needs to have a referendum to build a property there.
Mhm.
The community still needs to vote on whether or not to build that school. And so we don't even have a referendum on whether or not the school is going to be built. I'm all for sitting down with them. I'm not understanding the rush, I guess.
Oh.
Mike, if you want to answer
Yeah,
the question.
I appreciate that comment and you're making, and also Jerry Boggs about staff time. I agree. We're busy like everybody else. I think there would be some benefit to at least having an initial meeting to let them explain, because I see this is coming up every time we talk about this. Why didn't they talk to us first as an, officially talk to us, and before they bought I think we should at least give them the benefit to have them explain that to maybe a couple of board members, and those board members can come back and talk to the village board. And then, if that meeting, we could ask them more detail, they're not talking about building the school for a number of years, so why are we having to do this now? But I would say it'd be helpful to have that initial meeting with them, Jeannie. It's my opinion.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Corey, did you have a comment?
Yeah, actually a question, and it kind of ties in with the timing aspects of this. And for Jeff, how do you see this as potentially changing our plans possibly for our wastewater treatment plant facility plan? Could this be something that changes, the timing, or maybe it creates an opportunity to where we can work with Fitchburg now as a part of this overall agreement?
Okay. Excellent question. And yeah, what David was talking earlier, I think that's kind of what he was hitting at as well. And I was going to kind of interject on that. The facilities plan will talk about kind of these options, and the facilities plan looked at options that of the Cyan interceptor is one of them, pumping to Madison is the other. What you'll read when you get the facilities plan is that these costs are way higher than us staying with our plant right now. But that was at a time where we really weren't sure of the cooperation from the city of Fitchburg. Now, if the city of Fitchburg is financially partnering in the extension of that interceptor to a pretty good degree, because they would be benefiting from it as well, that could be something that would change possibly the direction we go in 5 to 10 years. So what I was wanting to say with this, and you'll hear this with the facilities plan, is the plan is exactly that. It's a plan, but we're constantly evaluating our opportunities and our future with this. So I do think the discussion, I look at these two things kind of on parallel paths. We still have to go down the path of looking at our facility and a plan for the next 20 years. That if Fitchburg comes back and is a very cooperative partner and financially contributes to this, because it will benefit them, that's something that really could be something that might change our direction.
I guess along those lines too, if we aren't, connecting to MMSD, how does tying the school in affect our capacity for having things like a business park?
Well, that's something we will have to be evaluating. And like, like anytime we have a large entity wanting to connect to us, we'll have our engineers evaluate, obviously, the capacities that we have in the plant, the load and flow capacities. And then, that will be a factor on rates and what we're charging and impact fees and everything that we would have for a connection for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, David. David Donovan, go ahead.
Couple of comments. I want to assure Corey that I don't have any knowledge about the previous business park development either. So that's not entering into my decision making at all in this. As far as I'm concerned, that's history that has no implication whatsoever here. My concern is, and I will disagree with people that say that there's no benefit for us having to annex this property, is as soon as we do an agreement on providing utility service here, we're going to get additional requests for development in and around that school area, because we know there's going to be residential development that comes along with the development of a school. It always happens. So it essentially blocks off any expansion northward of the business park that we already have there. In any agreement, there's always a chance that you're going to miss something. Whereas if you have the zoning code and the utility codes, everything that apply to an annexed property, it's just safer, it's better, and it's better for the Oregon community. I don't see us having to have multiple agreements. I don't see how that benefits us. If a developer comes in and wants to put additional homes or additional businesses in this area, I think we're short-sighted if we don't take this opportunity to request and to require that Fitchburg detach this property and allow the Village of Oregon to annex it. I think that's critical.
Oh, yes, Amanda.
Interesting conversation listening to everybody, and I am kind of torn. I think the way I'd like to see us proceed is have an initial meeting, possibly with both full boards, because we all have a lot of questions and things. Allow them to explain why they proceeded the way they did. Give us a chance to explain to them what the issues we see now are, the issues that we see going forward, like David was just outlining. And after that meeting, then decide whether we want to proceed with doing an MOU or if we are going to hold firm on having Fitchburg allow us to annex that land or whatever. But I think we just have still far too many questions to say that we are going to enter into an MOU seeking agreement to try to make this work just yet. I just don't think we're at the point to make that decision. So I think we should just get a bigger meeting where we can get everything out and then decide whether we want to, in good faith, pursue that type of agreement.
Yes, Corey.
I guess I would just like to have Matt, I believe at a previous meeting, he talked about conditions that could be put into the agreement that would protect us from additional, development and the use of our sewer. So if Matt could comment on that.
Yeah, if the village were to go down the path of working with the school district and the city on the agreement or agreements that would be necessary to allow for the development of this site in the city with village services, we would have the opportunity to, and I think we would need to make sure we were careful about evaluating all of the impacts and taking those into account and finding ways to address them. And if, so traffic is certainly an issue that would have to be addressed. Our capacity to serve the site through water and service, water from a water and sewer perspective would need to be addressed. The relationship between serving this site and the potential extension of a sanitary sewer interceptor. I mean, all of these things, it seems to me, would be things that we would want to think about and consider and addressed before, you know, a final decision is made about approval. So that can be done. It is a fairly complex development project, though, because it has everything that a normal development project has, but then it has the kind of intergovernmental issues laid on top of that, which adds an additional layer of complexity that would have to be worked through. I mean, I think that's all doable. As I listen to the discussion, though, I'm kind of hearing about kind of two different steps in the process that seem to be in play. And one is kind of an initial discussion at a very preliminary level that would allow the board to make a judgment about whether it wants to then, you know, so in the first meeting is you putting your toes in the water to take the temperature to decide if you want to jump in and go swimming and work, you know. And so one possibility would be to, you know, have an initial meeting to have an opportunity to ask whatever high level threshold questions you'd have about sticking your toes in the water to decide if you'd want to go further or not. The other things I was taking some notes as I was listening to the discussion. From the cost neutral standpoint, I mean, if we're going to go beyond putting our toes in the water, I think you're going to want a reimbursement agreement with the school district to cover, you know, legal and other expenses that you're going to run into in this process. It also strikes me that meetings in the environment we're in today, where we're meeting over Zoom, are just by their nature different from the kind of meetings we had when we did the SRO agreement. I'm not sure how that's going to affect those discussions, but it's different. You're not together in the same room around the same table having the opportunity to engage in the same way. And that's an interesting dynamic. I'm not sure it's going to affect the process. And if the board did get its toes wet and decided, yes, we're ready to go swimming with the school board and really dig into this and figure it out, then I think, you know, you'd want to carefully think about what is your team in terms of your negotiating team, and what homework do we need to do, and what, you know, to be ready for that. The preliminary meeting about just at a high level, you know, you don't need a lot of preparation for that. But if you're actually going into the process of, okay, now let's start working seriously on trying to get something done here, you know, there's some front end work that would need to be done to actually proceed effectively with that kind of a process.
Ginny, you're muted.
Matt, would you envision yourself being at those meetings? And the reason I ask is because, I mean, we like you and all, but whenever you're at a meeting, it costs us money. So already we're not at a cost neutral situation if we're sitting in if we're sitting down and starting to negotiate and the attorneys are both sitting there and we're having to pay attorneys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that'll be up to you guys. I would say this, if you're having just a preliminary meeting so you can hear the school board explain kind of how they got to where they are and why they bought the land without necessarily fully engaging with the village, and just that kind of meeting, I don't think you need me there for that. Once you get to the point where you're saying, okay, now let's put together our game plan to work towards an agreement with the school district and the city on providing service, I think you're going to want an attorney helping you with that process. I don't know how you do it without legal representation.
Right. So board, are we, well, maybe Mike, this is a question for you. Do you perceive that the reason the school board is asking for a smaller representation because perhaps some of the things they want to talk about are sensitive, or like negotiating, I don't know, like secrets or tactics that they use, or is whatever they would want to talk about, could we do it in an open session, like a public session?
I don't think there's anything to hide. I mean, I think they were using that model, the school resource officer, because it actually was pretty efficient. We got to the end through a very difficult process, and that smaller group did work out. I don't I think that was just something they suggested. I don't think there's any reason that they wanted to do. They were worried about talking about this, but I'm not sure, Jeannie. Like I said, I just got the letter this afternoon, so I didn't get a chance.
Gotcha. So is the board thinking that you want to have a joint meeting with all full boards, or do you want to go down this avenue of having picking? I suppose it could only be two of us, right, Mike? So there's not a quorum.
Correct.
So picking two. Yes, Corey, I see you. Mike, would we then pick two of us to be at a meeting? Right?
Yep. Yeah. Otherwise, you have it's called a
walking quorum.
Negative walking quorum. Yep.
Right. Okay. So board members start thinking about that, and then Corey, yes.
I think from a meeting perspective, I think the first meeting where we're kind of listening to, what each of our concerns are, I think it may be helpful to have everyone there for that session. But I think like the SRO, I think you get to a point, if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, it's impossible to get anything done. So I think having, fewer people, even if we had a quorum and had to notice a meeting, I don't think that's a problem. But I think having fewer people may make for a more productive meeting.
Well, how?
I guess.
Okay.
One other question that I wanted to have was to ask Mike or anyone else who has been in contact with Fitchburg, what their reservations are about for annexing the property. If some of our board is concerned with that, it seems like they're kind of slamming the door on that possibility. And what are their reasons for that, I guess?
But I'll answer that question. I just had a thought, Jeannie, when you're asking me. Maybe one of the things I think it's hard to have the boards having a joint meeting on Zoom. I mean, I think it's just clumsy. What about if we asked like Dr. Bustler and maybe one or two school board members to come to a Zoom meeting and talk about the letter and what's in the letter, rather than having two full board meetings?
I think there's going to be so many questions that the full board is going to want to listen to that first initial conversation. That's the only reason I bring that up.
Oh, okay.
But I like that idea. I like Dr. Bustler and Steve Zock or whoever wants to come and
or somebody.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that the two of them could answer whatever questions that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then if the village board feels comfortable, then we move on to that motto that we used for the SRO, which would be probably better to use in this situation anyway, because I can't imagine a Zoom meeting with the school board and the village board and all of our staffs. That would fill up my screen of just people. Yeah.
So Corey, I'll answer your question. You want my honest opinion, or I can? Okay, I'm gonna give it to you. Okay. Yeah, dishonest opinion. Yeah, right. Well, I always tell people, if I'm sitting in the city of Fitchburg and somebody was asking me the question to detach property, I would never allow it. I would never recommend allowing a property to be detached. You just don't do that. Incorporated body. And I think they're worried about that they start doing it here, then someone's going to think it's easier to do it other places in the city. So I am not surprised that they're taking such a strong stance on that. Again, this is coming from Pat. He's a city administrator. He's not a policy maker, but I think he's going to get an authority to put that in the letter to us, Corey. So.
Yes, Amanda.
I think I'd also want to ask them, Fitchburg, okay, you don't want to let us have the land, that's fine, but then why don't you service it with water and sewer? I mean, how much would that cost? What are you looking at here? As I noticed in their comprehensive plan, they have an awful lot of residential development, possible residential development all around the school area to the north. And if they're planning on that, how are those people going to have water? When do they plan to bring water and sewer to that area of their municipality then, would be my question.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Jerry, do you have something?
Yes, I just, it seems like this discussion is tailing off and dying down a little bit now. but I just want to remind everyone that I think our priority should be insulating Oregon businesses and Oregon residents from the effects of the pandemic. And I've been listening to this conversation, and this is going to be a very complicated issue that is going to take a lot of discussion and a lot of time. And I'm glad David brought up the additional residential that's going to be around this, and Amanda brought it up too. And so that's everything that, this is a big deal, this development. But a bigger deal right now is dealing with the effects of the pandemic on our businesses and our residents. And I think we have to proceed very cautiously. And I think we need our staff fully involved in that, not distracted by this development. So those are just my thoughts. And I just want to close by saying my thoughts on this have nothing to do with something that happened in the past whatsoever. That's water over the dam. I could care less about that. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, my final comment would be that I'm interested in having a couple members come before a village board and talk about what's outlined in their letter. But I would be very hesitant to have a full SRO type starting those meetings until the pandemic either subsides or we're done with budget or both. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is because this is not our project. This is the school's project. Yep. I understand that they want it done now, but we at the village level, we have a lot of things that we're trying to get done. Yep. And again, they don't even have voter approval to build it. So I'm all about talking and working something out. I just don't understand quite the level of urgency that we're being asked mm-hmm. to address this with. That's my closing comment. So what is David, do you have one last thing?
Well, I was going to go along with your comment. Elise, could you, we have a motion in front of us to consider something here. Maybe bring that motion back up if you would.
We don't.
There's no motion on the floor.
No.
Oh, then I will make a suggestion that, or a motion that we coordinate a meeting with representatives of the Oregon School District to provide a background on the purchase of the property and their long-range plan for this property.
David, are you envisioning that a couple representatives would come to a future village board meeting?
Yep,
we do it
just
on
as
Zoom?
you described, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
okay.
you described.
Gotcha. Okay, so we have a motion by Donovan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Amanda, right? Okay, thank you, Amanda. Does everyone understand the motion? Candy, do you have the motion? Is there any discussion on that? I'm sorry, any discussion? No? Are we ready to vote? All right, so we have a motion and a second to coordinate a meeting with the school board or to ask a couple representatives to attend a future village board meeting and have an initial discussion, right? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. So Mike, do you kind of want to look at future board agendas and fit that in when you can?
Yeah, I'll deal with that. Yep.
Okay. And then will you respond to Steve Zock on these letters for us?
I will do that. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Item D. This is a FYI. Oregon School District will pay for having the school resource officer position in the school per the SRO agreement. That's good to hear. We thank them for that. Chief Jenny, I'm assuming the officer is still working even though the school isn't in session, or what kind of things is the SRO officer doing these days?
Yes, so the SRO is still stationed in the high school, available for anything school district needs, but also they're helping students that are in crisis who are home right now. We're obviously in contact with them at their residences, but then we connect them with counselors if it deems to be appropriate. We also have him doing school-related training through the school, and then also things we're finding for him. And then also he's acting as a resource officer for the community right now. So an example would be it's kind of a positive connection with the community. He's delivering board games and other types of toys to children who don't have any or are in need of them. And that has had a really positive outcome.
Good. All right. Thank you for that. Item E, this is a discussion of banking services agreement with the State Bank of Cross Plains and review of correspondence between State Bank of Cross Plains and village staff. We have information there from the finance director, Novinska, the May 5th, 2020 email to the State Bank of Cross Plains, which lays out what the motion that we made at the last board meeting to accept one of their proposals. So Mike, remind me why are we doing this again?
We were having to amend the agreement because it changes the conditions of the agreement we have with the bank. So Matt suggested that we do the amendment, and actually they prepared the amendment and Matt looked at it.
Okay.
And it's consistent with what they proposed or what the board approved last time. We have it for 90 days now to August 17th.
Okay. So this is putting what we approved at the last meeting in writing, and both parties will agree to it then. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So does someone want to make a motion then to approve the amended villages banking services agreement with the State Bank of Cross
You
Plains?
need Randy to make a motion.
Thank you.
Second. I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Glish and a second by Donovan. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, item F. This is a discussion on possible action regarding the review of the village administrator recruitment timeline. Boo. If we just vote no, does that mean you can't retire, Mike?
I think I'm going to leave at some point.
Second the motion.
All right, so Mike has been kind enough to put together a timeline for replacing him in his valued position as village administrator. And so we have a recommended motion to authorize village staff to prepare a request for proposal for hiring a search firm for review by the village board at the June 15th, 2020 board meeting. Would anyone like to make that motion?
Can't leave.
Sounds like Donovan is going to make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a
Jacobson will second.
All right, and a second by Jacobson. All right, any discussion on this?
Just one comment.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, David.
Just one comment. I wouldn't hold ourselves to these dates. If we can speed it up, we should, only to make sure that Mike gets out of here on that January 1st deadline that he set.
Well, he's got January.
And I was going to
31st.
I do. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So Mike, you're saying to March 31st, right?
Right. I wanted to maybe explain a little bit. When Candy and I were working on putting the calendar together, we had to work around the two elections, and then we had to work around not doing interviews during the holidays, and I didn't want to do interviews during the budget, so it really pushed the interviews out to January of 21. So I'm actually saying on this schedule that I'm here to the end of March, David. And I will say that if the board approves hiring a recruitment firm, you'll sit down with the recruiter and come up with a new schedule. This is just a tentative.
Yeah, I saw your date deadline there, Mike, but I had remembered something earlier that said you wanted to retire by January 1. So.
And actually, because of COVID-19, I was going to start this process like 3 months ago, and it just, everything has been changed, and so it just extended my, yeah.
One good thing of COVID.
Any other discussion, comments? All right. So all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item G, discussion and possible action regarding request to execute the addendum to Dane County 2020 Purchase of Service Agreement. We have a recommended motion to approve the addendum of the service agreement. Someone like to make that motion, please?
Donovan will make the motion.
Wish.
All right, so a motion by Donovan and a second by Glish. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item H, we have a review of a letter from Town of Oregon Board Supervisor Phil Van Kampen regarding additional playing fields for use during J.C. Park West's construction. So we thank Phil for putting some thought into that and for going to the time of sending us a response. We appreciate that.
Jeannie, just for, he's moving to the village. Phil is moving to the village.
Okay. All right. Item I, discussion and possible action regarding proclamation Professional Municipal Clerks Appreciation Week. So do we have a motion to approve the proclamation?
Peterson will make that motion.
So we have a motion by Amanda and a second by Jacobson. Is that what I sort of heard?
Sure.
Sure, let's go with that. All right. And normally we would read this if we were in person. Is it going to hurt anyone's feelings if we don't? We super appreciate our municipal clerks. Yay, clerk. Yay, Peggy and her staff. All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Item J, review of investments, building permits, and impact fees. Any questions or discussion on this? I think they're surprisingly looking not terrible.
Yeah, I was just to say that we're actually not doing bad as far as single family permits. We're actually doing okay. And if you're driven around the village, you see a lot of building going on. I know Jeff said that Safeville's very busy, so that's good. That's good for us.
Revenue from building permits.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Item K is FYI only, Alliant Energy upgrade to underground electric distribution system near the Public Works garage. Item L, discussion and possible action regarding Lincoln Road. This is the bid recommendation and award. We have two recommended motions. One is to void the bid that we got from Fisher Excavating of Freeport, Illinois for the Lincoln Road project and return the required bid bond. And then the second recommended motion is to approve the bid from Northwestern Stone LLC for the Lincoln Road project in the amount of $954,308.25. So Jeff, apparently Fisher made some mistakes in their initial bid, and right?
Yeah, there were under the asphalt price for the surface course, which is the top course of asphalt. It's 1,200 tons of asphalt. They transposed the first two numbers. So instead of 63.85 a ton, they transposed that to 36.85 a ton from one of their subs that they got. And so it caused a major shift in price. I believe it was an honest mistake, and our engineers have talked to them. I've talked to them. They said they would honor it if they had to, if we were going to go after their bid bond. But I think the right thing to do here, and Fisher's doing a really nice job for us on the Park Street and Janesville intersection down there. I think the right thing to do is just, it was an honest mistake, and we got great bids on their project from other contractors.
Can you kind of move approval on both, or do we do them separate?
We should probably do them separate. So do you want to? Yeah.
I'll
so
move
Ray,
on the first one. How's that?
okay. So we have a motion by Glish then to void the bid from Fisher. Is there a second on that one?
Peterson,
second.
All right. So second by Corey. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. And then
All you
Randy,
kids at home, you should be checking your math.
public service announcement by our Public Works Director.
Thank you, Jeff.
Check your math.
Katie, I'll
so-
move approval on number 2.
Yes, all right. So we have a motion by Randy, or by Glish, to approve the bid from Northwestern Stone. Is there a second?
Bollig seconds.
Second by Bollig. Any further discussion?
Bollig has a question.
Yes, please.
Are we still coordinating with the town of Oregon on this project?
Yes, yep. They received their bids back. I've not heard back from the town yet. They said they would call us, and I've not heard back from them. So, but yes,
You don't know who they're using yet at this point.
I don't, but keep in mind that their bid was probably more through strictly asphalt contractors. Ours was through a general contractor because we had 1,500 feet of 12-inch new water main. So our asphalt contractor on this will be a sub to the general contractor.
Got it. So
yeah.
Did we not know we're going to have to do that? Is that why were we
Well,
talking about a joint project with them earlier?
Well, you can't, between the two municipalities, you can't do a joint project where it would have one single contractor. There's just, the way it works. The thought process, and it still could. I mean, the same asphalt contractor could be hired by both of them, but that's up to the general contractor on our job.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. No question on money, Jerry?
It's a lot of money. It's coming out of borrowing, right?
Nope. Actually, I think that's a good point. This is not coming out of borrowing. All of the roadway costs are coming out of developer fees that have been collected for the last 20 years, 18 years, 17, 18 years, developer fees as part of the Bergamot development to one day improve Lincoln Road. And so we have a very sizable amount of money in the bank. The only borrowing for this is for the water main improvement.
Okay. And again, on that road, it's going to be about a foot wider on each side?
Yes. Well, with shoulders too. So we'll notice an increase with a new pavement service, increase width, and better shoulders.
Better shoulders. Wow, they're going to have to dump a lot of gravel in there or something, fill or something in some of those areas.
Contractor gave us a price of like 1 cent a cubic yard for the gravel.
Will the shoulder be paved?
Yes, if the shoulder will be paved.
The shoulder will not be paved. No, it'll be a gravel shoulder, just like the only place that the shoulder will be quote unquote paved will be the curbing that's at on Lincoln Road from those first 15 to 20 homes along from Union westward.
With the Windcrest subdivision.
Yeah.
So it's still not a recommended bike route.
Amanda, you picked up on my.
We don't recommend bike routes. I would not ride it. No.
All right, we have a motion and a second then, right, to approve the bid. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. This
Item
is exciting.
Yes. Item M, Department of Transportation, DOT, Highway 14 updates on Highway 138, and then also the Highway 138, Highway 92 project.
And Jeannie, I think on that second one, it doesn't mean this is for sure going to happen, but they're giving us a courtesy notice that this is on their planning calendar. At least they're looking at it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Item N, discussion of possible action regarding surplus bricks. We have a recommended motion to declare approximately 1,000 gray paver bricks as surplus and allow public works to dispose or auction them.
Donovan will make the motion.
Motion by Donovan. Do we have a second?
Jacobson seconds.
Second by Jacobson. Any discussion on this? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item O, we have a wonderful drawing here as a thank you from village residents to public works staff. Jeff, would you like to describe what that is a picture of?
I would love to. You know, like I said, every once in a while I get these things mailed to me, and we decided not to let the put it out in public of who this was, just for, you know, safety, you know, and that type of thing. But this was of a crew from Public Works this last Monday when we were out chipping, for a week ago Monday. When we were doing our regular chipping, you can see the Vermeer chipper in the background there. You can see two of very appropriately proportioned Public Works individuals there. And one has brush and the other one's watching him load brush. So
Has a cap on.
but no, it's great. And I mean, these things are really what bring joy to what we do every day. And we make sure that we let people know that, you know, I let the guys know. I showed them this. I said, I think they nailed Kevin perfectly with this, but they got a good kick out of it. They love this. They love seeing this kind of stuff. So we thank the public for putting up with us. Sometimes we're doing all these things.
Thank you for including that. Sometimes we need a little lighter things in the packet. All right, item P. This is our typical call to let village residents know that we have some openings on committees and commissions. If you are interested, you submit a completed village application to Michael Grace, and your email there is listed. And applications can be obtained online. We have gotten a few applications for these, and I've just been responding, Mike, just to let you know that because of the pandemic, this is not a super high priority, and we're just leaving these open probably for the summer. I don't know.
Collect them. Yeah, perfect. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been telling people.
Yep.
All right. Report of committees, we have none. Minutes not requiring action, we have minutes from the Oregon Area Fire EMS District Commission. Thank you, Randy and Jenna, for serving on that. We have no unfinished business. New business, we have approval of pending new operator licenses. These have been approved by the police department. We have one for Stop and Go, Tara L. Gray. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved. Randy.
Second.
So we have a motion by Glish and a second by Peterson to approve that operator license. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And doesn't look like we have any other approvals of those. We have some future agenda items listed there. And then I guess I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Donovan and a second by Jacobson to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.